welcome back to A Day in My Life. If you're new here, my name is Anna and I'm a German mechanical engineer based in Sweden. But today we're doing something very exciting. You're catching me on a train to the airport because we're going on a business trip to Belgium to do some equipment testing. Let's go! I work for a battery factory in Sweden, and my job is basically to develop factory equipment together with suppliers. And whenever we buy large custom machines for our factory from a supplier, we design it together with them, they manufacture it, and then we fly over to their factory where the equipment is produced and we test the equipment to make sure it's meeting our expectations before it leaves the production site. Because it's real freaking expensive to ship large machines. In fact, it's so expensive that it is much cheaper to buy me a flight ticket to check out the equipment before shipping than it would be to ship machine parts back and forth. And this project milestone of testing the equipment at the factory where it's made is called Factory Acceptance Testing, or short FAT. I'm really excited to see this machine in person for the first time. I've been working on this project for over a year, and to finally see it come to life is really cool. So I thought I'd bring you along for this 4-day trip to Belgium to show you another aspect of life as a mechanical engineer.
We'll now be demonstrating the use of the UI vest. Place your left through the opening, fasten the strap around your back.
Fun fact, this is what happens when you film while leaning your phone against the window of the plane. Now, you may or may not have noticed that we have a prime view of the right wing of the plane. So let's take this opportunity to talk about the flaps on the airplane wing and why they have different positions during takeoff and landing. Planes have a minimum speed that they need to fly at so that they don't stall and drop from the sky. The flaps basically make the wings wider and increase the lift they can generate. This means that a plane can fly slower without stalling, which is really handy during takeoff and landing when the plane can't go that fast, especially if the runway is short. However, the flaps also increase the drag of the wings, meaning that the plane cannot fly as fast. So during the flight, the flaps are not extended. But if you look now while we're approaching landing, the pilot is extending the flaps further and further so that the plane can fly at a lower speed without stalling. And as soon as we touch down on the runway, the pilot also puts the spoilers up to increase drag and help the plane slow down. And then finally, as soon as we're slow enough for taxiing to the gate, the pilot retracts the spoilers and eventually also the flaps. And with that, we've made it to Amsterdam, where we're getting a connecting flight to Brussels. You already know the procedure: gate, plane, gate, yada yada yada. And finally, we've made it to Brussels airport and go to pick up our rental car. The car turns out to be absolutely massive. Luckily, the acceleration is also massive, which is gonna save me out of quite a few tricky situations driving in this new city with a passenger whose navigation skills can be deemed mediocre at best. I should add that I'm a very anxious driver, so if I'm driving 130 on the highway and you tell me to switch 5 lanes to the right to make it to the exit coming up in 200 meters, I will not be pleased. Somehow, we made it through the rush hour of Brussels and the narrow streets of Bruges, and into the tiniest underground parking garage in the whole world to get to our hotel. As the designated driver, I could not film any of this, but I sure hope you enjoyed my extremely accurate reenactment. The most stressful ride ever. So I'm not used to driving because I live in Stockholm. You don't need to drive there, and it would be way too expensive to have a car there. So I haven't driven in like a long time, a few months or something. And I was the only person with a European license now, so I was the only person who could drive this car. And and they gave me a really freaking big car, the biggest car I've ever driven. Well, and we were trying to find a way, and we took so many wrong turns, and then in the end I had to drive it into this narrow parking garage, and oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. But I gotta get ready because we're gonna go out for dinner in like 5 minutes, so... Very excitingly, the hotel room has a bathtub, which I don't have at home. So I obviously need to make the best of it with a top bun, Netflix, and a bubble bath. Okay, time to sleep. I'm so freaking tired. Gonna sleep so well. So, good night. Let's turn this off. Oh, it's dark. Good night. Good morning. It is day 2 of our little adventure in Belgium. Here I'm showing you the view from my hotel room, and then it's time to get ready for some FAT. Once we arrive at the supplier's factory, we admire the machine before we proceed with trying to find everything that could possibly be wrong with it. Luckily, that doesn't seem to be a lot, and the FAT is going really well. After a long day of testing, discussing, and checking documentation, we drive back to our hotel to drop off our stuff, and then we go out for an amazing dinner with our supplier. I mean, just look at that food and those empty plates. Time to sleep. On day 3, we basically do the same thing all over. Driving to the supplier, testing, driving back to the hotel. So we're finally done with the FAT. I'm back at my hotel room, and now we finally get to see some Bruges, so let's go. Of course, I buy some Belgium chocolates, and I get back to the hotel for a call with some YouTube friends.
Surface, like you see it as it is, and then you realize.
We go out for pizza and then end up in a bar with 300 different beers to choose from. Not the best place for indecisive people, but once we finally make a choice, the beer is amazing. And then we're already on our last day. So let's get ready for the day. pack my bag, and enjoy the mediocre breakfast and the massive car for one last time.
Vi ber dig placera handbagaget under stolen framför dig.
I hope you enjoyed this little adventure in Belgium. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.